Okay, yeah, and so I still have about 28 people that, so I mean, we're filling all day today, no problem.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah. And then, can we have it on the record that Navigator has rested its case in chief, so that's officially part of the record?
Yes, we presented all of the witnesses who offered pre-filed direct testimony. And we have only rebuttal witnesses left.
All right. So in that case, landowners make a motion to renew the motion to return or dismiss based on the failure to notify the 204 people. And then we make a new motion to dismiss and return the application on the basis that Navigator in their case in chief is still to live up to the 4 factors required under South law. Thank you.
I'm inclined to let Mr. Moore rebut.
Thank you, Mr. DeHuick. With respect to the first motion that was raised and decided, well, I'm not sure that my memory is not clear. The issue was certainly raised. I don't recall that there was a motion that was made at the time based on the notice. I think there was certainly an objection, but as we argued at the time, we remedied the landowner notice by providing notice to the landowners who did not receive the notice due to the administrative error under the statute. They were specifically provided written notice as required by statute. They were specifically advised of an opportunity to intervene in this proceeding. In fact, we had, I think, 3 people who intervened, who indicated that they had received notice after we sent the second notice. And we argued at the time, and would still argue today, that certainly with respect to those landowners, there has been no violation of due process. They have been afforded every opportunity to participate in this proceeding and to offer public comment to the commission, either as a commenter or as an intervener who is able to participate and offer testimony in the record. So I certainly see no basis to dismiss and return the application based on that issue. With respect to the second issue, it's essentially a motion for directed verdict. The standard on that is that there is no evidence from which a reasonable person could conclude that Navigator has presented sufficient evidence to meet its burden of proof under 49-41B-22. And I think that there is ample evidence in the record from which a reasonable person could conclude that we have met that burden. In addition, there is outstanding testimony submitted through rebuttal to address issues that have been raised throughout the docket. It is the nature of pre-filed testimony that the record is really complete when all of the evidence is in, and at this stage the record is not complete. So while I appreciate that the rules of civil procedure apply, I disagree that it makes sense that such a motion could be filed in this proceeding at this stage of the proceeding based on the rules related to pre-filed testimony. But that notwithstanding, again, the standard is that no reasonable person could find that we have met our burden with respect to 49-41B-22, and there is ample evidence in the record to the contrary.
Staff, do you want to voice? And Ms. Bailey, I'm going to put you on alert. I'm giving every party an opportunity to talk about whether or not the case should survive, basically a request to end the case right here and now.
Regarding the notice issue, that would be something I would intend to include in a post-hearing brief and would like the opportunity to do so. As far as the burdens needing to be met under SDCL 49-41B-22, I would concur with Mr. Moore's recitation of the law as to the reasonable person standard and would like to hear the rebuttal evidence as well. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor and Ms. Bailey, anything you would like to offer?
I join in Mr. Moore's argument.
No, I take no position on this issue.
And commissioners, at this point, I would offer you any questioning that you feel needs to be done. Otherwise, I would make a vote call as to these two motions that Mr. Jordy has put up and take them separately. So on the motion that is the first motion that's focused on the application and the notice, all those in favor of Mr. Jordy's motion will vote aye. Chairman Fegan?
So just to clarify, I want this issue briefed like PUC staff has stated, so I don't want to make a legal opinion on this, like we said, December 20th, but I don't believe it should be set back right now, and we should stop the hearing.
We're not in favor of Mr. Jordy's motion on issue number 1.
Just so I'm not making a legal decision on it, correct?
In discussion on a motion, I agree with Commissioner Fegan, and I would further articulate that I think it may be valid. Both of them may have some validity. However, I think it's premature on the basis that we need to hear the rebuttal as was espoused by the council. And I think this juncture may conflict, but I think the county hearing is something extremely important. And I recognize that that is completely separate at this juncture and would be of no use if we did bench it at this juncture. But I just feel we have to allow the rebuttal prior to making a decision of this nature. And then I would like to have the other.
Yes. Good. Stay on the
Sorry, what was your question?
When you were referring to the rebuttal, are you referring to a rebuttal from Mr. Jordan, from Mr. Moore?
I'm referring to the rebuttal witnesses from the applicant's side. Because that is part of the process.
We can have some more rebuttal from,
No, I understood Commissioner Hanson to say he's referring to testimony from witnesses, not more argument from me.
okay,
That is correct. That's why I said the applicant's side, yes.
okay. So with that, may I continue? Like,
Well, I assume with a prior to every vote, the standard operating procedure is that we discuss the motion if it's, especially if it's a motion of this nature. And that's why I weighed in with remarks. Just so that it is clear why I would ask that this motion be deferred until we have that opportunity to examine what we really need to examine before making a decision. Thank you.
So I just heard something different there, Commissioner Hanson. Are you offering a motion to defer? And I don't know how that even works because
I
think we need to rule on the motion that's been given to us. Not that it can't be renewed later.
I asked that it be deferred, and I am hinting to Mr. Jordy that it would be good for him to take it off the table right now, because I feel I need to review a considerable amount of information prior to voting on a motion like that. Otherwise, I feel like what I'm saying is either yes, it's been benched, or no, they have actually proven their case. And I don't want it to appear that I'm taking that position. Certainly, there's more testimony to be heard, and I have to review some things prior to being able to say, yes, they made their case, or no, they haven't. You see what I'm saying? In essence, if we vote to bench it, that's fine, it's done, everybody goes home. Secondly, if we don't, we're in essence saying, no, we believe they have unreasonably made their case. So we're basically deciding the case, and I don't want to do that right now.
Okay, so we've got two different motions here, and I heard you arguing the second of the two.
Correct.
Are we taking argument on both of these simultaneously?
Now, we'll offer.
Could I request a 5-minute recess to talk to Martin?
Yes, by all means. Folks, as you can tell, there's some, it's good legal practice happening before your very eyes. Enjoy.
Mr. Drury, could you restate your first motion? For this part, just so we can restate his first motion.
So the first motion is a renewal of our motion to return application, which was previously filed on January 24th, 2023, on the basis that Navigator, per law, failed to timely notify the required persons within proximity of their intended main line. Navigator admitted that fact, that they did in fact fail to do that by the required deadline, which is not a may, it's a shall. Therefore, it is uncontroverted that that deadline slipped, was missed. They later tried to
So I just,
solve it, but that's the motion. I'm
so I'm
sorry.
going to
That's-
go back and look at how you briefed that, because I think you sent the motion in to us in January, so I'm going to go back and look at that quickly.
We will resume the proceedings. Mr. Jordy has two motions on the table. After a brief recess, we are now prepared to do commission vote and commission discussion on the motions. We are making sure to handle these one at a time, so parties, here we go. On motion number one, which I'll call motion to dismiss and return based on application and notice. All those in favor?
You I do have discussion.
Okay,
Thank
discussion
you.
on this motion.
Thank you. This motion was in front of us in January. That's why I wanted Mr. Jordy to clarify his motion, because I didn't completely hear it the first time. And so it caught me a little off guard. This motion, when he restated it, was in front of us actually in February. It was filed in January. And when we looked at this, we are not making a legal conclusion, or I certainly didn't, on the failure to notify the 204 land participants or the landowners. I chose not to make that. I stated that very clearly in December 20th when we had the discussion when that came up. But when this motion came up, staff actually, I think, helped briefed it or talked about it. And actually, what it shows in SDCL 49-41B-13.2, this isn't grounds to return an application. And that's part of the decision we made in January or in February, and I'm staying there and still allow conclusion to be made at a later date on the notice.
Further commission discussion? And seeing none, all those in favor of motion number one, vote aye. Commissioner Nelson.
Nay.
Commissioner Hanson.
No.
Commissioner Egan.
Egan votes no.
Motion fails. Commission discussion as to motion number two.
So, I've been saying for a year, I need to get all the facts on the table to make a decision as to whether or not this project meets the criteria of state law. And we are well into that process. We have learned a lot, but there are still we need to learn. There's a whole group of people out here, landowners, that we haven't heard from yet. I want to hear from them. Mr. Moore's made the point that they're rebuttal witnesses, and we have put off a lot of questions throughout the last 6-7 days for one of their rebuttal witnesses in particular. I want to learn from her. And I think in order for us to do our job that the legislature has given us, we need all the facts on the table. And so I certainly am not prepared to make a decision on this application at this point without all the facts.
Madam Chair, I expressed my opinions earlier, so I won't express those again. However, I do believe that there's a very important leg that needs to be built or taken down, and that is the fourth item of the rules, the regulations, the laws that state that we basically have to hear the views of the counties, and we have set up hearings for them. And so I don't want my vote to reflect whether I believe they have made their case or not. I think it's extremely important to hear from everyone, and certainly the counties are a very important part of it, along with those folks that want to testify, not only here, but over the next few days, and the rebuttal witnesses that we need to hear from as well. So I will not be supporting the motion. However, I do not want that to reflect upon whether I'm voting in support or in opposition to anything other than allowing us to have a complete hearing.
Thank you. I can certainly see why an attorney would want to have the commission make a decision from the bench, but the Public Utilities Commission has to make our decisions based on facts and evidence. And rarely does the commission ever make a decision, especially this complex issue from the bench. So today I want to move forward. I want to continue, just like Commissioner Nelson and Hanson said. I want to hear from landowners. I want to hear rebuttal witnesses. And then I also want to hear from the counties. So we have facts and evidence on record, and then we can make a decision. So I understand, but the timing is not proper today.
Further discussion.
I'd just like to say thank you to Commissioner Hanson for mentioning the counties in the fourth prong. He's absolutely right in that not only does the statute require us to take their concerns into account, but by special motion, the applicant has further implicated some of the decisions of the counties. And so we absolutely need to move forward and hear from them also in the 2 days that we've set aside for that.
All those in favor of Mr. Jordy's motion will vote aye. Commissioner Nelson.
Nay.
Commissioner Hanson.
No.
Commissioner Deegan.
No.
Deacon votes no.
Motion fails. Moving right along, Mr. Jordy, you may continue.
Thank you. Landowners call Dana Bosma.
Okay, I'll do an oath. You stand and raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
And ma'am, there's a mic.
And Mr. Jordy, do you mind, because we don't have your list, could you tell us right away which exhibit
Oh,
that
yeah.
we'll be looking at? So we can, I tracked all of yours from the other day and had them all organized. Now, of course, a lot more people, that's good.
Yep, certainly. This witness will first be discussing Exhibit 39, and then eventually 40 and 41, so those three in that sequence. All right, ma'am, will you please state your name?
My name is Dana Bosma.
And you can just leave your mic on, you don't have to turn it on or off.
All right.
And ma'am, where do you live?
I live outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay, and did you come back to South Dakota specifically for these proceedings?
Yes.
And how many hours do you think of your time have you invested learning, participating, and otherwise trying to educate yourself on this potential project and process?
That's rather difficult to say. I would say that it takes up at least half of my week for the past year and a half.
All right. And where is your land in question that you're concerned about?
My land is in Lincoln County, borders I-29 off exit 3, 5 miles east of Lennox.
And before we get into some specifics about your particular property, give the commission a sense of the history of how long you've owned it, how long it's been in your family, and generally what type of use do you put it to?
My father and mother purchased it in 1981. It was, I got it as an inheritance. The land was used for farming and at one time to winter cattle. They own a ranch in Stanley County, just outside of Fort Pierre here. All their brands are on the coast out here. And it was primarily as backup because it was in a different weather pattern than the ranch. And so it was backup. And they own several parcels of property there in Lincoln County.
And then, since you've been an owner, have you dedicated that land to row crop farming?
Yes.
Any other types of use or pasture on the property?
Not since I've had it, it's been farm.
Very good. So probably if you turn to page 32 in the binder in front of you, there's your pre-filed testimony. And once you get to page 32, yep, keep going this way.
This way?
There you go. In the bottom middle, there'll be page numbers. And we're going to go all the way back to 32, so you can skip a bunch. Okay, there you go.
Yes.
All right, so on page 32, is that a copy of the Navigator map that they provided you at some point?
Yes.
And it looks like that the Navigator proposed pipeline that they want to place on your property is approximately 2,335 feet long, is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Now, there's been some discussion about, well, have you talked to Navigator, or why don't you just talk to us? Let the commission in on any
Can I
communications
make
you
a
had.
correction on this?
Yes.
Okay, where it says new construction, that's up across the property line. This has a setting right next to the pipeline. It's just on the border across the property.
Yep, and we're going to get to that.
Okay.
Yep, so if you just want to help the commission out with generally any communications you've had with Navigator in writing, in person, on the phone.
I've had several phone calls, and I've had 3 certified letters, packets that I've signed for.
Okay, now, and you can even bend that mic down
Yeah.
slightly, just so we feel it. And so the phone calls, you said you've had several phone calls where you've actually engaged with them on the phone?
Well, I do work, so usually I can't discuss that in my workplace. So they've left voicemails, and I've listened to the voicemails, and I cross-referenced it with the packets that I've received.
Okay, and you mentioned you do work, what do you do for a living?
At this time, I do tutoring, and I make leather handbags.
Okay, and prior to that, when you were more traditionally fully employed, what did you do?
I taught environmental science, earth science, and life sciences at Valley Forge Military Academy and college
All right,
in Pennsylvania.
and how long were you there?
15 years.
All right, very good. So now you anticipated where we're going. Tell us a little bit about the ground that we're looking at there. I noticed you've made a couple notations in your handwriting. Just explain what those are and why you thought it was important.
I wanted to note that was I-29, which had been on another photograph. And just to mark the streets, 207th, I think, street down at the south, and then the street going up north and south. Just label the names.
Very good. I noticed that there appears to be 2 homesteads or home places for someone just south of where the proposed route is. What do you know about those places?
The one on the corner has a church, and I think there's a school, an older schoolhouse there. I think they're private residents now. I don't think that they're owned by somebody. And the one in the middle is a 10-acre piece that is my sister-in-law.
All right, so your sister-in-law, which would mean your brother and your sister-in-law live there?
Ex-sister-in-law, but I still call her my sister-in-law.
Okay, all right. Very, very good.
I still like her.
Okay, all right. And I take it you wouldn't want a hazardous CO2 pipeline that close to your sister-in-law?
No, my nieces and nephews are there quite a lot.
All right. And in terms of who does your farming operations for you, who handles that?
I have a tenant.
Tenant.
Mhm.
Okay, very good. So I'd like you to page forward, please, to page 126 of your testimony there. another map with a different
Yes.
view? All right.
Yes.
And so when we zoom out from the Navigator map, does that show I-29 better? And in fact,
Yes.
as an exit just north of your property?
Yeah, 68.
68, very good. Do you believe your property has future development potential given the frontage on I-29 and the proximity to that exit?
Yes, and also because that whole quarter above me is on commercial.
All right, so immediately above the yellow line which delineates the northern boundary of your property, that entire portion up to the interstate there is all commercial now?
Yes.
Do you understand that commercial land can fetch quite significantly higher prices than just farmland?
Yes, I do.
Did you have any plans to ever come back to South Dakota in this particular property?
Yes, it was our plan to, we have 3 building eligibilities on the property, and it was our plan to move back. I have children on both coasts. This would be halfway, and we'd already started. We have a daughter who is living in Sioux Falls and works at a vet clinic.
All right, and when you say move back, was it your plan to construct a residence on the
Yes.
property? To share with the commission how this potential project has affected or not affected those future decisions.
Well, all plans have stopped because of the pipeline. We don't know what's happening.
And if the commission were to approve the route as desired by navigators we looked at previously on page 32 of Exhibit 39, would you decide not to further develop that property as a residence for yourself?
Definitely.
All right, let's go page forward, please, to 133. And this is designated a certified wetland determination. Is this, will tell us what this document shows.
This document shows the tiling and there's a ditch there, the drainage that comes off that property.
And why did you want to highlight the tiling and the drainage and the drainage issues on your property?
Because that's taken years to develop and make sure that it worked. And tiling and the construction of the ditch have been modified over time in order to get this land productive and not have problems with that much water on the property.
Have you been sitting here for a few days waiting to testify?
Yes.
Has any of the testimony you've heard from Navigator related to their plans with drainage or tile or water resources made you feel any better or alleviated any of the concerns you have?
Not at all, because it's really taken us quite a bit of time. We've had several vehicles stuck up there.
And have you invested considerable financial resources and obviously time to develop the tiling system and the water management system?
Yes. Yes.
Well, do you believe that if this pipeline were to be trenched, constructed, located, operated on your property, that it would substantially impair and affect your tile line?
Yes, it would.
And how would that then, if you believe it does, lead to any other detrimental effects to you?
Well, it makes it very difficult not only to farm there, but it makes it really difficult to do anything else with it. I mean, that has to be working.
And then the next page, if you page forward, is that kind of a zoomed in version of what we were just talking
Yes.
about?
Yes. The water comes down through that property and actually ends up in Bear Creek.
When you've been seated here, did you hear anything from Navigator related to their analysis of waterways and springs and streams such as you have on your property, or was it limited more to major rivers and waterways?
It seemed to be limited more to major waterways.
Has Navigator ever presented you with any type of map or information to make you more comfortable on how they might, on your particular property, not unduly or substantially interfere with your tiling or waterways?
No,
Do you believe you on the farm could suffer a substantial negative injury or economic injury if your tiling and water flow was negatively affected?
yes, probably couldn't get on the field.
Now, could I have you page forward to page 162 towards the end of your testimony? There you go. What is that, and what does that depict?
That is the erosion that is just on the other side of the road from my property, about where the pipeline is supposed to come through.
And that's a photo that you took?
Yes,
And why did you want the commission to know that particular feature near your property?
because there hasn't been that much rain. And this is what has happened just in this year. And if you look, you can also see that there's a tree down and everything, and I'm very concerned that the erosion's already there. The pipeline is supposed to go through there, and I'm concerned that there should be some erosion underneath the pipe, and it should slip. It's quite similar to the situation that happened at Satartia.
And based on your knowledge and understanding of that, where the ground essentially gave way underneath the infrastructure leading to the major ruptures, that concerned you?
Yes,
And do you have highly erodible soils on your
yes, I
property?
do.
And then the next, page 163, is that the tree that fell down in that area?
Yes,
And again, that's a photo you took.
yes.
And the next photo, if that's from Satartia, what was the significance of that photo?
That's, the terrain is quite similar. If you read the report on that, it involved a geohazardous area where there was erosion underneath the pipeline. And then the pipe came apart, it leaked and broke and exploded.
You were here earlier, did you hear the testimony that in terms of the geohazard and geotechnical surveys, that those thus far conducted by Navigator have been desktop and they're just now getting into phase 2?
Yes,
Does that concern you?
yes.
Why?
Because you have to come out and look. I actually, we actually measured how deep the erosion was. And I think it was about 16 inches. But we haven't had any rain. We haven't had huge significant rain.
So you're highlighting erosion conditions and trees falling with very little rainfall. Are you
Yes.
concerned that that impact would be exacerbated by major rainfall?
Yes,
Is Exhibit 39, the pre-file testimony that you prepared with my assistance as your counsel?
say that again?
Is Exhibit 39 what we've been looking at, your pre-file testimony, and these are the photos you
Yes.
provided?
Yes.
If we were to go through every single question and answer, would your answers be the same as they were in your pre-file testimony?
Yes.
Okay. I then would move the admission of LO 39.
Any objection?
No objection, except as to attachment 12, pages 140 to 166. That's the Bison documents, which has already been excluded. And then also as to Exhibit 13, page 164, the photo of Satartia is, it's hearsay and it's irrelevant as to this particular witness.
So let me respond, please. Did you say, what was the sequence of pages you mentioned first? through, something through 166, did you say?
Yes, it's 140 to 166, which the commission previously ruled on and has ruled the same way on every single one of the landowners. There's no need to rehash that.
Okay, and to make it clear, my attachment 13 is different. My attachment 13 starts on page 151, and that would be some of the information that she's just testified, the photos she took herself personally.
Well, we want those in, Mr. Jordy, so can you please, I'm going to assume we're gonna want those type of pictures in, so can we make a clear record here?
Yep, I apologize. On 12, the bison exhibits is 140 to 150.
Mr. Jordy, agreed?
Well,
Oh, sorry, I thought you were ready.
no,
Okay.
That is correct. That's consistent with what has been objected to. I don't agree, but I understand your ruling, yes.
I would like to get some sort of standing thing so we can proceed like we did at the last landowner day.
Yep, I'm fine with that, except if we get into the instance where maybe someone added different attachments, so the numbers, and that's why we probably have to just do this each time, unfortunately. Yep. Okay, so, I moved, Navigator corrected the pages that they would like not included, and so I think it's back for a decision.
Those will be sustained and those will be admitted.
All right, thank you. Ma'am, LO 41, it's not in the book in front of you. If you want me to get it, it's in another binder. I'll just represent, that's your insurance policy that you provided to the commission. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And you have insurance with who on your farm?
Mutual in Sioux Falls.
All right. And tell us a little bit about the research you've done related to any liability concerns you have should this project be approved on your property.
I have read through several times my policy and have discovered that I'm covered for general liability. I do not have anything concerning any pollutant. So should anything occur as a result of a release of some pollutant from the pipeline, it's going to be my problem.
All right. And landowner exhibit 41, the insurance policy that you provided to this commission, that's a true and accurate copy of your personal policy?
Yes, it is.
And you maintain a copy of that in your possession?
Yes, I do.
And that's the policy for which you pay premiums for?
Yes.
All right. I would move to admit LO 41.
No objection.
It is admitted, or staff, I'm sorry.
No objection.
Other interveners? Okay, hearing none, it's admitted.
Now, ma'am, before I turn you over for cross-examination, is there anything else particularly, again, without going through your entire pre-file testimony, that you would specifically like to highlight for the commission that we haven't yet discussed?
Well, I do have a picture that was not in my original testimony of our tractor that got stuck in the upper part of the field on wet, and with the drainage problems that are up there. The wheel is 9 feet, 9 inches, which is taller than me, and it's stuck way up the belly of the tractor.
And is that something that you would like to be made an exhibit in these proceedings?
Yes, I would.
All right. I would move to mark the photograph of that tractor from your land as landowner exhibit 134.
Any objection to 134?
No, but we would like to see it.
And you may approach, or Mr. Jordan.
if they'd like to see it, I have
I'll
no
get out
problem
and
about
get
it.
it.
Oh, sorry.
Listen, I'll do it, I'll do it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I want to see it too, but I don't think to see it. So we had no objection, and that will be admitted.
LO 134. Okay, ma'am, other than LO 134, which has been received into evidence, is there anything else you'd like to discuss?
Well, I have lots of concerns for the neighborhood in general, because it's a very nice neighborhood. I'm concerned, and my family is also concerned about family members and neighbors that live there, that they will not have any warning of any issue with the pipeline as far as the leak, because this happens to be odorless and colorless. At Satarsha, there were impurities, and so there was a smell. There was also a color. And you won't have that here, because this is very pure. So I worry because you'll never know, unless you'll always wonder with that little sputter in your car if this is it. You won't be able to leave, and that'll be it. That's where it is. And even though Satarsha was really lucky in a way because of that, they didn't really have casualties, but they did have lasting effects. There are people with still health problems there.
Ma'am, I appreciate that. I'm going to tender you for cross-examination, and others may have questions.
Okay.
So, ma'am, we'll begin with the applicant over here for cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bosma. I'm Melanie Carpenter. I just have a couple questions for you today. You were represented by Mr. Jordy, correct?
Yes.
And either you or Mr. Jordy on your behalf has told Navigator that you do not want them on your property,
I
correct?
don't.
Okay. And you commented about drain tile that you have on the property?
Yes, and a ditch.
And I assume you've had, I think you mentioned some repair and reconstruction.
Over time.
Excuse me. We just have to talk one at a time where she can't take this down for us. So you said you had some repairs or reconstruction of your drain tile over time,
Over time.
and those repairs were able to be successfully completed?
Yes,
And you live in Pennsylvania?
I do.
And you're renting out your property right now?
Yes.
And growing corn,
Soybeans.
soybeans, and do you rotate with corn?
Yes.
And does your tenant sell any of the corn to ethanol plants?
Yes.
I think those are all the questions I have, thank you.
Mr. Taylor,
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Bailey,
No questions.
staff.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. I just have a couple of quick questions for you. Can I first turn your attention to that picture you provided? It would be LO 134. And if you recall, we don't need to pull it up. I just,
Which one is that?
it was the last picture you provided.
Okay.
Yep.
Commissioner Hanson is holding it up.
Yeah.
All right. Do you recall when that photograph was taken?
It was a couple years ago.
Right. And what were the weather conditions when that occurred?
Well, obviously it was the year when we had some rain.
Sure. And do you recall I guess can you just explain how that tractor got in that condition? Unless there's an objection.
Well, it was out in the field, and it was, somebody was driving it, and they were trying to get across the field, and it got stuck.
All right, thank you. And then, what was the insurance company you said that you carried?
Farmers Mutual.
Farmers Mutual. And I'm just looking at Exhibit 41, which was your insurance information. It indicates a Pennsylvania address. Is that your address?
Yes, it is.
And is this an insurance policy for that address?
No,
What?
it's an insurance policy for this piece of property.
Okay, and then just going to page 2, you mentioned that your insurance carrier is Mutual. Is this a booklet from Mutual Insurance?
Yeah.
Is Farm Bureau the same
Farm
as
Bureau.
Mutual?
Oh, Farm Bureau, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Okay, that will bring us back over here, ma'am, and the commissioners will now ask you some questions, and we're going to begin with Chairman Beacon.
Thank you. Sherry, stretch your hands a second because I have a question for Commissioner Nelson. Commissioner Nelson, is there, no, you don't have to write this down. Could you please, get us fiber connection here so I don't have to continue to be kicked off the internet and not see these it's when Gary and you take all the bandwidth?
Amen.
Anyway, I'm ready. Thank you for taking your time to come to South Dakota, and we're glad you're here. And actually, I'm very pleased to hear that your family may be moving back, because I love this state. And I love it when I hear people move back here. So that was fun to hear. I didn't get to see all your exhibits because of a computer glitch and an internet glitch today, but how many eligibilities do you have in your land? And I know you may have said some of those.
3.
You have 3 eligibilities. And the commercial north of you, is that, are there several commercial spots north of you?
Yes, there are.
Is one of them a rural electric?
Yeah. There are several electrics.
So Southeast Rural Electric just moved their headquarters, and is that the exit there?
Yeah.
Okay. Drain tile. Drain tile is tricky. And it's tricky to fix because you go back into the field. Sometimes there's moisture in the field, sometimes there's not. But it's tricky and it takes time and it disturbs the crops and it goes on and on and on. Have you seen that when it takes time to find it? It's not necessarily marked out like an electric line. It's hard to find it and it takes time to fix it and you never know if it's fixed until
It works.
it works. So have you noticed that it's a struggle to fix it, or can you find it right away? And
We pretty much know where it is. And we have worked over time. It's working really well right now. And we worked over time to keep, adjusting it so that it was adequate for the amount of drainage that was there.
okay, thank you.
Kozma, thank you very much for stopping here and chatting with us. Appreciate it. I know it's been a lot of work for you, at least that's what it sounds like. The tractor, I'm glad Ms. Reese asked the questions before I did. I was going to ask the same one. It looks like those tires are about, I'd say 6 feet. If it's 9 foot, those are close to 7 feet down.
The wheel itself is 5'9" in
Oh.
diameter.
Okay, I see.
I'm 5'6", it's 5'9", so about up to there.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I assume one of the reasons why it was buried like that is because it's a John Deere and not an international.
I wasn't driving it.
My grandpa got us on internationals all the time, so. I just talk about half people. Okay, so I think I have all my answers. Your photographs say 1,000 words each, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a safe journey.
Thanks for being here, and I'm glad Commissioner Hanson asked that question because I thought I'd heard you say that the diameter on the tire was 9 feet 4 inches, and I'm thinking, man, that's a bigger tractor than I got. So I appreciate that clarification. The only other one, the 2 pictures of the ditch erosion, you testified that you took those pictures, correct?
Yes.
And on the pictures themselves, there's a notation that they were taken by an Alfred Slothow. So that is not correct then?
Okay, he's my brother. He's my brother,
Okay,
yeah.
so who took the pictures?
It was on his phone,
So he took the pictures?
on his phone, yes.
Okay. That is all the questions I've got. Thank you.
With that, ma'am, you go back to your attorney who will maybe ask you some more questions.
Ma'am, just anything based on those line of questions that you haven't highlighted, that you want to highlight before we let you go? In terms of any concerns about this project posing a threat of serious injury to you or generally the environment or the community?
I'm very concerned about that. I mean, as a science teacher, that is something that strikes me as, very detrimental to the community. And also in, say, the resale, if I should decide to sell or resell the property, because it's got a hazardous pipeline on it. And as far as farming, that also worries me because I have a tenant. And I would rather you didn't drive across that, but that's going to be very hard to farm, going one direction on the top, narrow strip, and going up and down on the other direction. There's also a worry about entrance onto that property in order to work on that pipeline. Either you'll come in off the interstate and drive, that's a pretty steep ditch there. There's a ditch on the other side, they'll have to make an approach. Or if they come from the south towards the north, they're going to go through the whole field, and there's a bridge there that belongs to my sister-in-law. So there's a lot of risks, I think, involved in just the quality of that when they're done.
And is it your belief that subjecting you and your family and your land to those type of risks would pose a threat of serious injury to you and your economic condition?
I'm a retired teacher. We don't make much money, and so retirement isn't high. This is part of my income. And I'm also proud of the fact that it's a very, very nice field. We've worked hard. The crop this year looks beautiful, and I would like to keep it that way.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't have anything.
Any recross?
No, I don't have anything, thank you.
Mr. Taylor, Ms. Bailey?
I'm just curious to know if they ever let the kid drive the tractor again. I would throw that question.
And staff?
No, thank you.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your testimony. You may sit down.
Thank you.
Mr. Jordy, you may proceed.
All right, Dan Nelson, please.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Will you please state your name?
My name is Dan Nelson.
And Dan, where do you live?
The town I live near is Valley Springs, South Dakota. I am the Minnesota state line border.
And what do you do?
Well, I have two jobs. I'm not a huge farmer. I farm and I have stock cows, raise corn, soybeans, alfalfa. I'm also a local kind of our area John Deere mechanic. I've done that for 43 years.
And do you have land that's potentially affected should the commission grant this application?
I do.
And tell us a little bit about that land, please.
It's in Minnehaha County. Section 36 of Edison Township, and it's also connected to Section 1 of Brandon Township.
And to help everybody along, LO22, Mr. Nelson, is that your pre-filed testimony that's been prepared on your behalf for these proceedings?
It is.
Now, before we get to the photograph of the land yourself, so you can tell us a little bit about it, can you just tell us kind of the history of how you became owner of this property?
About 10 years ago, let me back up a smidge. Across the road to the east, there was my family owned an 40 acres of pasture and 40 acres of tillable. And I have stock cows, and that worked out good. And then about 10 years ago, there was an auction sale. The Cooley family sold 400 acres of land up in that area. Some pasture, some tillable. And we went to the auction, and we bought the 105 acres of pasture directly west of the 80 that we had on the east side. Split Rock Creek runs through it. That's kind of how we got a hold of it.
Okay, so now if I could have you, sir, turn to page 33, which is notated in the bottom middle of Exhibit 22. And you're looking for the photo. There you go.
Yep.
All right. Is that a true and accurate photo of what Navigator presented to you and your wife, Diana, related to their proposed easement?
It is, yes.
And apparently they seek a permanent easement of 751 feet approximately, is that right?
Apparently, yes.
Now, I noticed at the top of that page 33 there of Exhibit 22, it says proposed length and then proposed acreage, and then there's some fine print where they say it doesn't constitute a plat or a survey and it's for informational purposes only. Do you have any idea as you sit here today of what's depicted here that they provided you is in fact really the center line they seek?
Absolutely not.
And have you been here for the testimony that they believe that they can ship their proposed or preferred route anywhere on your property?
Yes.
Now, this shows looks like to be a pretty good depiction of that creek, and you said that was Split Rock Creek?
Correct.
Now, in your experience of owning this ground, have there been years where the creek has been higher or lower and there's presented any challenges you'd like to discuss?
Oh, yes, it's flooded, to the point where it's put logs, trees up on the bridge, stuck up on the purlins. You know, probably, there was 3 times it did that, within 15 years, probably, something like that. And one of them, the first one was when the Highland Dam broke up in Highland, Minnesota. That was the first time. But the other 2 times was from rain.
Now, it looks, now, do you have building eligibilities on this piece?
There are 3.
Oh, okay. And did you have any intent, or did you have any intent to locate any homes or try to sell off those eligibilities at any point?
Yes.
If this commission were to approve this project and Navigator went forward with placing this on your land against your will, what would you do with those eligibilities?
I don't think, we wouldn't be able to do it. We've been to the point where we went to Nebraska to look at a type of a home. It was a barn home. They're beautiful, you know, and with we would be north of that creek, and it'd be 800 feet from the pipeline. And the proposed line there anyway, but and I used Minnehaha County GIS to try to measure it, about 800 feet. We've scrapped those plans for now. We just scared to death of it.
So if this project was approved by the commission and Navigator were to locate on or near, well, on your property, I guess, at all, would you not move forward with those economic development plans on your property?
We would not.
And do you believe that would be a substantial injury to your economic interest in general welfare?
Oh, yeah, that would be a hit. If anybody's ever been to the Palisades State Park and the Sioux Quartzsite rock outbreaks, I've got that too. And with the South View, and then the Split Rock Creek, you know, in the evening when the sun is shining, goes down towards Corson, it's just gorgeous in there. What a place to retire, but I don't think it's going to work. We have planted 3 rows of trees to get a grove started for that event. We watered them, we mowed them. So, yeah.
And are you farming any portion of your ground, or do you have a tenant that helps out on that?
I farm my own ground.
You farm your own ground?
Yep.
Okay. Would you be comfortable farming over, driving heavy equipment over, using chisel plows if you do that type of activity over the easement if it was located there?
Well, one different thing about this piece of property is it's quartzite, solid rock. And they told me, and then the Burlington Northern runs, there's a line right on the north side of, you can see that white line that goes across it. That's the Burlington Northern Rail. So they told me they were gonna bore the pipe. So shouldn't be any digging, I don't think, if that's the case, through my property.
And so, would it cause you concern to have the pipeline located there in terms of any of your regular normal course of farming activities?
Well, the warm pipe could affect the grass growing in that area. It's a pasture. The right of way, you know, it cuts that piece of land right in half, you know, almost. I don't know how that would, you know, if it would be, you know, if they could ever do anything else with that right of way besides, you know, right now a person can drive across it, but who knows in the future if it's sold, what the next person would do. Another thing is they can't get to it from the highway on a normal year. If you go to the east, the Highway 109, I think it is, there's 2 gates that go into it. There's a kind of a dog leg that sticks down on the right side, and this cattails and it's swampy. I have been stuck in there with my Honda four-wheeler more than once. And I got so I carry a fence post with me and a little chain so I can pound the post in and pull myself up. This year's been fine, it's been dry, but normally, there's been times I can't spray that pasture, that portion south of the creek, because I can't get to it with my sprayer.
Now, sir, have you, throughout the course of this process, had an occasion to research the liability policy that you have on this particular property?
Yeah.
And have you had a chance to look over that policy and draw any conclusions about it?
Yeah, liability wise, they won't, it's meant for a mutual and they will not cover hazardous waste, hazardous material, if it spills out,
So are you concerned that if anyone were to even allege that you were negligent or your tenant or someone was negligent in any way for damaging the pipeline that led to some type of injury regarding the CO2, that you would not have coverage?
Correct.
Now, in one of your answers, I think you said something like, "They told me." Have you had discussions with anyone from Navigator at any time?
Early on I did. Then when, they learned that we were hooked up with you, they put communications.
So the early on discussions, I mean, obviously I didn't know you at that time, and in your early on discussions, what were your thoughts early on, or the impressions that you formed?
Well, first of all, it was a big thing to hear about it. It was, something we've never had to deal with before. And this was before that first Garrettson meeting. Is the time, way back when it started, they were asking if they could come out and survey. My wife and I talked about it, and, I didn't talk to a lot of neighbors about it, but the ones that I did were either yes or no, about surveying. But we decided that let's let them survey it. When they see all that hard rock on that Mohn scale, it's set at 7.5 out of 10 for hardness. But they're going to find a different spot. They're going to go somewhere else, Well, they didn't. We'll bore that. That's no problem. So that was my first time. I met with Tom Bray up there a couple times, and then I got a phone call 3 months ago that they had raised the ante on the acre payment. But that's it. There hasn't been any other contact.
And the fact that you got a call from them directly during the course of our representation, you felt fine, you took the call, even though you represented?
I said, you can just do me a favor and move it. And then he laughed at me, and I'll check on it, And then I called him back later, and they said, no, we're not going to move it.
So in terms of when their Navigator's witnesses were saying, well, we want to work with landowners, and we want them to be a part of the process, and we're located to take their concerns into effect, did you experience that or something different?
Say that again, please.
Yeah, you've been here, last week,
yeah.
this week. Have you heard Navigator's testimony to this commission that they want to work with the landowners? If you would just talk to us, we could find an alternative route or move it or address your concerns. Have you heard that type of testimony?
Oh, yeah.
And what's been your experience?
It's just a waste of breath to talk to them. I haven't talked to them a lot, like I said, but it doesn't do any good. They're set. It's set. There's no movement.
All right. Now, in terms of you just mentioned about they called you and saying, hey, maybe we'll pay you some more money or something. Is this about money to you? Is that what you're holding out for? Or what's the main concern?
Well, I don't know if I have. I've got 0.86 acres involved. It's not a money thing. It's the principle of it. It's eminent domain. It's private owned, using eminent domain. And 4 entities partially have invested in it. And it could be sold to who? We don't know. So yes, it's not money for me, it's principle.
Understood. So I will offer Exhibit 22.
Any objection to Exhibit 22?
No exhibit to Exhibit 22 with attachments 1 through 3, and then so 4 through 11 are subject to our same procedure, I guess we've been following. 12, we don't have an objection to, with the exception of the last 10 pages, which is the bison study again, which again we've been discussing. That is pages 130 to, I'm sorry, 131 to 141.
Well, and, oh, sorry. No, did you make a ruling? I would interrupt.
Oh, I'm gonna make a ruling off sustain as described.
All right, very good. And Mr. Nelson, I forgot to look at page 1, starting at page 123. You provided some photographs and a narrative, and we don't need to go through that line by line, but if there was anything else particular with the your site-specific photographs that you wanted to highlight.
Well, page 123 is just that rock wall I was talking about and the Split Rock Creek, and you notice it's all rock. The one above it is the Split Rock Creek going in a bend down to the south. Turn the page to 124, more photographs, there's my cover. 125, there's a flood picture on the top, and that arrow point where the pipeline proposal would be. Right now, this is sitting on, this picture is taken from the road. One below it is canoe. Now, there's more story with that. So when that auction came, the Cooley auction with Sutton auctioneers, people were, they had land, different tracts of land, and they were bidding on it. People were buying them. And there was an 80 a half mile north that got sold to East End Realty. And we just, I forget the guy's name, but he's an auctioneer for East End Realty. It's his business. And nobody knew why he bought that. Well, not too long later, here I get a phone call from South Dakota State Parks wanting to trade that 80 tillable land, and it's not quite 80 acres, but just call it 80, for my 80 of pasture, right directly east of that piece we've been talking about. It took a while, but we got the job done. I traded in that land, and right now that is the new entrance for the Palisades. I'm still leasing the Palisades State Park land for my cows. That's coming to an end. Next year I won't have much of it left. I mean, we had a time scheduled contract. So. Anyway, so there's pictures of Finnwards. If you go to page 129, there's the picture of the new state park. The bottom 80 is what I traded. If you look about the middle of the picture, there's kind of a weird circle, 2 circles in there. That's the 81 new campsites that are being built. And I think next year they're going to be up and running. This year, they're putting infrastructure in the, to the south end of that, they're putting in the new welcome center, the film station, the cement bathroom, and all the campsites are in, the driveways are gravelled, there's trees growing. If you go, flip the page one more time, page 130. With my great artist ability here, I drew in those campsites in the right half of that picture. If you look on the left side, you'll see that the pipeline will, using Minnehaha County GIS, I measured the feet from the proposed pipeline to those new campsites. It's 3,800 feet. Yes. There's a southwest wind at 10 miles an hour. And that pipe blows up there. It'll be in those new campsites in 4.5 minutes. Just think about that. I talked to at a township meeting, I talked to the Garrison Fire Department, and they said they would probably have to just call Sioux Falls, the hazmat people, because they wouldn't be able to handle it. Below that is, you know, I have had no information on how deep they bore. I heard through this last couple of days that they might go 30 foot deep under a creek. I don't know. I mean, it's, you know. So with that drawing there, just imagine that they bored a hole. Now, if they're going to put an 8-inch pipe in, I've been hearing about 8-inch pipes. They're not going to put a drill 8-inch hole, I would think. I don't know, but I don't think. I would guess they drill a 10-inch hole, so they have a little give there. But they're going to take these 20 or whatever length pipes they are and butt weld them together, and they're going to put them through that hole. I don't think they're going to want to go through there very good. I think they're going to have to hammer them through. So they're going to kind of go straight, and they're going to curve, and when they come back up to the side, they're going to kind of straighten out again. So okay, I'm sorry. Get going here. I would, yes. And the pipes will have to follow that curve, stressing the pipe. So I am like I said, I'm a mechanic, been a mechanic for 40 some years, and vibration happens with hydraulics. If you dig a trench and put a pipe in it and cover it up with dirt on a flat run, you know, in a perfect world, that pipe has got, it's like a culvert, but you know, it's got dirt around it all the way around. Here, there's probably going to be an air gap between the pipe and the wall with sharp rocks in it. If it vibrates, I would say this would leak before a flat run.
Now, sir, if I can have you go back to page 129 for a second. So it looks like there's this plan, pretty expansive and detailed park development all surrounding your property, is that right?
Right.
And those viewers, they were in the waterway in the creek there, right near your property?
In my property, the one on the west side, the one where the pipe's going.
All right.
Yep.
And then if you can go to page 127, please.
There, yep.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about this.
That is I don't know the right word for it. It's a turtle carved into a rock. And there was a gentleman, Harlow Lundquist, he found it, and he chalked it out with chalk, and got a camera, and looked down on it, and took a picture. This picture doesn't really, I got a copy in my chair, in my folder, that's better than that, but anyway, it's a turtle with a fish in its mouth. And if you look kind of in the bottom, you can see the fish, you can see the mouth of the turtle. The turtle's going towards me, so got turned a quarter turn. And that's located 1,000 feet from that pipe, across the creek.
All right.
And, oh, let me say, it's about as big, if you would put one more table like that together, that's about how big it is.
Okay, and since we don't have a video here, would you say approximately 5 by 6 feet or so?
Yeah. Yep, a Honda four-wheeler won't quite cover it. I mean, because I parked on it when I had a cow get off.
You may not want to do that. If I can have you go back to, let's see, the page of the Navigator easement, sir, I think. Page 33. 33 of the proposed pipeline location.
Okay.
Now, we talked about your plans that you're no longer moving forward with, but it looks to the left. If we look left, there looks to be some home sites and buildings. Tell us just a little bit about that.
Well, the pipe, you know, with this angle, if you go northwest, and then you see those dots, those are the Highline Tower. And it's gonna angle right to the west side of those towers, and then it's gonna go straight north.
So it gets pretty close to those home sites there?
Yes. Yep, it is.
All right. Okay, well, I don't have anything further. Sir, thank you. I'm going to tender you for cross-examination.
I'm going to ask Sherry if she would like a little recess. Fifth Ward Cross. We have been going for a while. We've had,
Or do
okay,
you want us to finish this person, or you want to?
okay, we'll move on. So, sir, we will start over here with Navigator. We'll begin asking you some questions.
Sure.
Hi, Mr. Nelson.
Hello.
I'm Melanie Carpenter. I'm going to ask you a few questions today. You don't have a home site on this parcel, do you personally?
No.
Okay. And you were told that the crossing of your parcel would be done by horizontal directional drilling or boring. So there would be no surface disturbance to your property, correct?
That's what I understand.
And is it your understanding that this horizontal directional drilling, so the pipe would be placed at least 50 feet below the surface?
I have never heard how deep it would be, but yes, it would be, the way it's explained to me, they wouldn't be coming here as big, it's going to pull it. But I don't know how deep.
All right. And you had talked to Mr. Jordy a little bit about this petroglyph, the turtle.
Yeah.
That's not on your property, is it?
No.
And is that at Palisades?
It's not the Palisades, it's well, if you look at this number 33 out of 141, you know where the pipe is at, and if you go southwest, it's right below that farm site.
Thanks. And you said you had some conversations with Navigator before you became Mr. Jordy, is that right?
Yes.
And I just want to ask you a little bit about that. So you started talking, it looks like, having conversations with the land agents back in December of 2021.
Possible.
And would they come out and visit with you in person and talk on the phone?
Mostly talking phone. Tom Bray is the only person that I've seen eye to eye. Otherwise, everybody else has been on the phone.
So initially, Navigator reached out to you in December of 2021, kind of explaining the project to you.
I don't know the dates, but probably it was before that Harrison meeting.
Sure. And then they came back to you in May of 2022 and talked to you about surveying. And then it looks like you might have talked to Tom August 24th, September 23rd, and October 18th.
I don't remember all those.
Okay.
I don't remember all those. No, I don't.
And then
Who was the other guy that called me and offered me the money? He was from Texas.
Brian Mack.
Boston.
So at that point, after you have these conversations with Tom, and I assume you were getting along fine with him.
He's a pleasant guy to talk to.
Okay. And
And so am I. I'm not, I mean, you know, I'll talk to him. I'm not gonna chase him out of there.
Absolutely. And he would answer your questions to the best he could, I assume. And then you became represented by Mr. And at that point, I assume you
Taylor, lawyer. The northern Orange Grove property is bisected by the Burlington Northern. And that's Burlington Northern. Yeah. Yeah.